Real YouTubers make their own captions. Please remember to hit that subscribe. Think about it. Okay, so turning on the lights doesn't do anything. Alright, so here's the deal. There was a Crown Tundra trailer a little bit ago, just a little bit ago, and there was a bunch of information revealed, and I realized that something that I hadn't talked about was Galarian Slowking, which was revealed in the trailer. Now, I'm interested about this Pokemon because it's very interesting in a number of ways. So we're going to talk about it. The first thing to note is that it's 5'11", which is almost as tall as me. I always thought of Slowking as being like up to my waist, so this is a little bit weird, but whatever. It's the Hexpert Pokemon. We're not going to comment on that. It's the Hexpert, okay? And the typing is Poison Psychic, similar to Galarian Slowbro. Now, it has a new ability called Curious Medicine, which we'll talk about, and yeah. I guess the first thing to note is the Poison and Psychic typing. I don't think this is inherently bad. I do think Water Psychic is just better overall, but Poison, like, it's tough because, like, a lot of the Poison-type Pokemon really suffer, but, like, Poison is, in the right scenario, is very good. Like, Alolan Muck was really strong when it was first released, as an example, and, yeah, like, Amoonguss is really good, and, like, Genjar can be really strong as well, so, like, it's not that Poison is, like, a bad typing, it's just, like, it's not a typing that's, like, very splashable, if that makes sense. Like, it needs to be on the right Pokemon, and the Pokemon has to have, like, certain things going for it, or like that to allow it to use the poison typing. And like, I mean, Gengar and Muck use their poison typing, but Amoonguss doesn't really use it very well. So yeah. Let's see. So this is just some background on the Slowking. I really don't know how I feel about the design. It definitely makes me uncomfortable. I like the spices inside its body line. I think that's funny. But yeah. Nothing really interesting here. They utter incantations in order to communicate with each other. That's really funny. Yeah. Eerie Spell. So this is the first thing. It's a Psychic-type special move in which the Pokemon attacks with tremendous Psychic power. If hit, the opponent doesn't only take damage, it also loses 3 PP from the move it last used. So, this is an interesting move. It's not bad. It's going to depend on the base power. If it's like basically just like Psychic, but with the secondary PP effect, it could actually be interesting. I know in singles people will actually run out of PP, but because in doubles you pretty much only play for like 10 turns, 10 to 15 turns most of the time, if that. You don't normally run out of PP. However, this definitely has niche uses. Like if you were using this Pokemon and it was like its best in slot Psychic type attack, like if it's better than Psychic or Psyshock or whatever, or Expanding Force depending on your team, then you could definitely justify using it. And like, for example, you could there's a lot of moves this generation that have 5 PP, and so using it in that way can be interesting. Other than that though, like it's not really going to have an effect. Most moves in VGC have at least 10 PP, and yeah, like of course while there's some niche cases where that's not the case, like it's not, you can't viably build a strategy around this. Like maybe it comes in handy against like you could against like if you got into like a Slowking versus Milotic endgame, you could maybe use this to like take away PP from like Milotic's Recover and maybe win that way. But like Recover has a lot of PP, so I don't even know if that would work. You'd have to not be taking damage somehow. So yeah, it's situational at best. I would say it's not something consistent. Even if you were to like use like try and build a team around this with like Gmax Duraludon and like pressure Pokemon, like I still don't think it would work very well personally. I could be wrong, but like yeah, like it like if it was like every Pokemon had a set amount of PP for all of their attacks, like, and if they ran out then they were just dead, then like maybe you could justify it. But like the amount of time you'd have to invest to get them to use up their best moves and like not lose is just not really worth it. So I think this has like some niche applications, like against moves like Draco Meteor, where potentially like you can like yeah, like against a move that only has 8 PP, which is anything that starts with base 5 and is PP max. Theoretically getting hit with 2 of these if they attack twice with their move will take away all their PP. So it like has some use, but like it's not consistent enough that you can build a strategy around. And also it really depends on the base power, because if it's weaker than Psychic, like if it's like a little weaker than Psychic, you might be able to justify it, but I probably wouldn't. But if it's weaker than 80 base power, you're not going to run this ever. So it really depends. This is what I think is most interesting to people about Slowking, and this is what I'm going to talk about for the majority of this video, which is Curious Medicine, a new ability. When a Pokemon with this ability enters the battlefield, ally stat changes are reset. So this has a lot of applications, in my opinion, but it's very lacking in one major area. So Effectively, Curious Medicine is a really cool ability. Many people are aware of like the move Haze, which removes all stat changes from the field, and Clear Smog, which removes stat changes from the targeted Pokemon, whatever Pokemon is hit with it. However, we don't have anything like this, or didn't have anything like this that would reset stats when switching in. It's pretty rare for a stat to even be boosted upon switching in, like Kazama Zenta and Zacian are coming to mind, but like a download is like one of the only other examples that I can think of off the top of my head. And although like there's Intimidate, which lowers stats, like stats are more or less like relatively untouched, like based on abilities. So this has some applications, right? You can even see here, Arcanine uses Intimidate. This is probably the leads, and then Slowking removes the stat changes from the partner. So this is going to be good in teams that really don't want to deal with Intimidate. This is very good against a Pokemon that wants to Dynamax but is worried about being intimidated. You could switch in your Slowking and remove it that way. It's also good against like Fake Tears, I guess. Though with Fake Tears, normally you get KO'd, or like Charm or Tickle or stuff like that. However, yeah, like other than that, I guess like your defense might drop. Like if you want to use, some Pokemon will lower their own stats. So for example, if you had a Pokemon with close combat, fighting and Psychic types are often paired together because like Psychic resists Psychic, which is nice, and yeah, fighting like is good against Dark types. So like if you had a close combat or superpower user, you could use Slowking to switch it in there. However, here's the real thing about Curious Medicine. Like, although this definitely has like applications, and like if you had Slowking on your team, you could definitely keep this in mind. Draco Meteor is another really good example, or like anything like Overheat, anything that's going to drop your special attack or your attack after using it. Like if Victini were legal, then I'd say Victini, right? Like V-Create plus Slowking. However, the big thing here is that it doesn't affect the opponent's side of the field. Now, that is, you might say, good and bad. So, for example, you can drop your opponent's stats without worrying about it. Like you can use Intimidate, and you can use Snarl, and like you don't have to worry about accidentally switching in your Slowking and like resetting those. So in that sense, it's good. However, people run Haze. Haze has been run in many VGC formats across the years, mostly in restricted formats because of Xerneas, which we'll talk about. But Haze is a good move. Like it's not always good, but it's nice insurance against certain teams and certain like setup Pokemon. And even like just in general, like we saw Haze actually get a lot of play this year on Dusclops, just because like it was paired with Conkeldurr and could reset Intimidates, but it could also remove Dynamax boosts. Now, Haze is a good move, right? And in certain formats, it's not, I wouldn't say it's essential, but it's much stronger. So Xerneas is a Pokemon that is only legal in restricted formats, and its Geomancy attack raises its special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages at the cost of its item, effectively. And so, you might say, alright, well, like, that's pretty strong, isn't it? You double your speed, special attack, and your special defense in one turn. And people have run moves to deal with it. Haze and Clear Smog and Eject or Red Card are all moves that have been used to try and counter Xerneas. And if this ability applied to the partner, like Slowking would actually be a legitimate Pokemon in a Xerneas metagame, I think. Like you could actually justify Slowking because the Xerneas couldn't set up on you ever. Or like they could, but then you could switch it in. And it would be like, it would offer you so much insurance against Xerneas that it would like actually be a very good way to balance it, in my opinion. Well, not like balance it, but it would at least be a good consistent tool against it, because like even if you have a Haze user, the Xerneas player can just delay their setup and focus on your Haze user, because the Haze user has to be on the field when Xerneas Geomancies, or you have to have a way to like ensure that you can Haze after the Geomancy. Yeah, so it's like there's counterplay to that, but like basically because it takes a turn to actually get the Haze off, if the opponent is smart or if they pressure properly, then like it can still be difficult. Like just having Haze isn't enough. You also have to position with it pretty well. And if this ability worked like Haze does and remove the stat changes on the whole field, it would be really, really strong, I think, and would justify, you would like seriously be able to justify Galarian Slowking, in my opinion at least. So that's like what could happen. However, it only affects your side of the field, meaning your opponent is free to set up with Geomancy or with Max Quake or with Max Knuckle or Max Ooze or Max Steel Spike. They're free. Even in this example, you can see that there's an Azumarill on the field. Azumarill can Belly Drum, right? Like you can't switch slow. Like there's a lot of Pokemon that can set up in the format, and maybe like they're not all trying to set up in the same way that Xerneas is, that they're trying to win the game, but there's many Pokemon that set up to like be annoying, whether it's offensively or defensively, boosting some kind of stats. Since 4 max moves or 5 max moves with flying raise your stats, it's really common for a max Pokemon to have at least one of them, and yeah, like that's pretty abusable, especially considering it hits both Pokemon on the opposing side of the field, which again is why Haze Dusclops saw a lot of play earlier in the format. So I'm really disappointed in Slowking personally. I don't think Curious Medicine is bad. Like I do think that it has applications, and like if you have it on your team, you can find clever ways of using it. But like it could have been a really, really interesting ability, especially because Galarian Slowking, frankly, is likely to be like Galarian Slowbro in that it's pretty lackluster, in my opinion. Like, it's not going to be metagame defining if I had to guess. The typing isn't great. It's not horrible, but it's not great. And it's really slow, presumably. So, yeah, like, overall, I would say that this, like, it's a letdown. Like, they were so close. If this just said, if this line, all Pokemon instead of allies, then it would be really interesting, I think. And you could actually, like I said, justify using it in restricted formats with Xerneas. You could even justify using it in non-restricted formats with Dynamax just because it would actually be good. But since it's only your side of the field, we didn't even talk about how, like you're going to Dynamax once per game. So, like, you might accidentally end up overriding your own Dynamax boost as well. So, yeah, I'm really let down by this thing. It was so close to being good, and it just really kind of, they really dropped the ball. I'm just going to say it. It's, like, and I could be wrong. This is all speculative, but I don't expect it to be very, very strong given how the ability was so close to being amazing, and now it's just kind of like mediocre. So that's my opinion. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below about Slowking. And I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye.